I was drafted by the U.S. Army as if I had a choice. But, you might be old enough to remember that sign that the U.S. Army put out for notifying the military age people that we're going to get you. The sign was all over town with some finger. Like everywhere, it's just where I turn, that finger was pointing at me. Say, we want you, we want you. I was at home with my parents, mother and father, until my time came. And that finger eventually got me, and I had to yield to the U.S. Army's call. And from that on, it was a pretty common story. Actually, if I hadn't been drafted, I would have felt out of place. I would have felt there's something wrong with me. The Army does not want me in it. But it didn't work out that way. I was welcomed in and drafted and did my military part of it over at Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia. And the time came for me to get on the bus. I did it willingly, and it was about a half-day's trip. So we went to Fort Benning in Columbus. There's one thing about being drafted in the Army during that time, you don't know what's going to happen. You know you're being drafted in the military, but where you're going, what are you going to do? What will your role be? Will it be a role that you'll be proud of later on, or something that you're sorry you got into it? But I was proud of my service. The unit I was assigned to had an assignment of building airstrips that was way down the road, but that eventually was what unit I was assigned to. Basic duty was to build airstrips. Now we left New York and went down the East Coast, and we were hit on the Atlantic Ocean, and we ended up on the Pacific. So we went through the Panama Canal and ended up in the Pacific Ocean, and spent the rest of the time on the sea, headed for Australia. That was a surprise. See, they don't tell you what's going to happen. You just take whatever it is. Yeah. But it was an experience that most of the recruits did not enjoy. And I guess that was the best part of the trip. Sailing on the Liberty ship on the Pacific Ocean, ending up in Brisbane, Australia. So we didn't expect that, but we did arrive in Brisbane. what had happened was, I don't know whether you are familiar with the World War II or not, but the Japanese, Douglas MacArthur, had established the headquarters of the Pacific operation in Manila. Well, the Japanese ran him out of Manila, literally. He said to the citizens there, "I shall return." It was his theme, the whole tour of the Pacific, "I shall return." So we kept that in mind. And we, I guess, spent about a week in Brisbane. Then we got on another ship and went to New Guinea. New Guinea was mostly jungle. And we stayed in New Guinea for a while, which was not a good experience, but that's what it was. And to shorten this, the time we spent in New Guinea was island hopping. New Guinea was a location of jungle islands. And but that's the way the war was going. The Japanese were trying to get the Americans out of New Guinea and into the jungles so they could, give them a shock and go on. I wanted to let my parents know that I was having a tough time in New Guinea. Port Moresby was the main base in New Guinea. I sat down one night and wrote a letter to my parents saying that this is a terrible place. I've never been in a place like this before. Later on that week, I got a call from the company commander. And he wanted me to identify myself. So he had my letter. "Did you write this letter?" "Well, yes, sir. I wrote it." Well, he had cut it up. All those statements about how bad the conditions were in New Guinea, Port Moresby, had been cut out of my letter. He said, "Did you write this letter?" "Yes, Captain." Well, he gave it back to me. And I said, if the enemy got this letter, they would be on us right away. So you take this and write it over. And the things that he had cut out were holes in the letter. So he gave it back to me and went back and revised it. And I don't know if that letter ever got out of New Guinea, but it was a bad experience. So that was that was an open awakening of what the Army was going to be like going through New Guinea on our way back trying to fulfill John Douglas MacArthur's commitment that I shall return to Manila. So we went from island to island. New Guinea was loaded with islands, and we would go, it seemed like, from one island to another every day, and we were on the move. Our assignment was the commanders had picked out the campsite, and our assignment was to build an airstrip for the Air Force to bring in supplies to the infantry. We were not infantry soldiers, but we went through New Guinea building airstrips so the planes could bring in supplies. And I didn't mind the infantry going ahead of us as engineers building airstrips. But it seemed like every week we were moving from one location to another. Mm-hmm. Well, we were not discharged until the war was over. Mm-hmm. I was out on a off-duty tour when President Truman dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I saw the lights flashing on the horizon. Didn't realize that that was the end of the war. We were being primed to go to Tokyo to join the troops in Japan. But when he dropped the bomb, that ended the war. So we turned around literally from headed toward Tokyo to head back to the United States. So that was a delightful thing to be going back home